Hello, once again, back to Filter Optional. How are you doing, Shannon?
I'm good. You didn't do your usual. I'm Chico West.
I am Chico West.
And I'm Shannon West.
I'm kind of throwing a kink in it for you today.
Yes,
you know.
I know.
I think people are starting to watch us, and so
maybe.
You know,
I don't know. You came in hot from Midland last night.
I
and
did.
then
I found out people in Midland
just...
are watching this show.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, we got some people in Mississippi and Midland.
Good.
You know, your friend
you
in
love
Vail.
Midland.
I do. Midland is fascinating.
Yes, I said you can move there.
I know, but I don't think you're going to join
I'm not.
me.
No, that's what I said. I said you can move there.
I mean, it is a fascinating town. I like it. So yes, I came in hot last night from Midland.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but the deal is, you know, I like our show this past week. You know, our show about setting up our house. We did set it up, but you know what? I'm gonna get honest. We've set it up for success with high school kids and junior high kids to be a safe place.
Yeah.
But our college son came home, you know, this past Easter weekend. We had done the podcast before he came home.
Yes. On Friday, we did the podcast. Then we had Easter weekend, and our podcast aired on Monday.
And on Friday night, when he came home, we took him to dinner. We hung out with our friend, and we come home and we walk in, and there's 7 college kids drinking in our house.
Yeah, it was.
It was like, man, we talked about setting up for success, and it's like, what are you doing in our home?
Right.
You know, and it's like, oh no.
And they used to respectfully not do that, but they were
going.
Oh, hey, I mean, because it's a normal part of their life.
Normal, and remember what normal is? It's what the majority does.
That's
the
right.
majority of college students do that.
Yes.
But that was the first time in our experience in our home that we saw it blatantly happening.
Yes.
You know, so we did talk this past week about, you know, setting our house up for success. We didn't set it up for success for college students.
No. Well, and it's because we talked a lot about, you know, community, building community, because in college, their communities a lot of times are fraternities or
sports teams
or a group, you know, that they are, you know, they find their group. And that's how they build community, and when your whole community is doing something. So that kind of takes me to...
Well, but before it takes you to that...
No, I'm not going to...
You know,
okay.
I mean, I did like that, this episode this past week, you know, and the deal is for us, you know, Filter Optional, me, Chico, you, Shannon, we do make mistakes, and we're going to expose our mistakes. We're also going to expose, you know, some things that we felt were successes as well.
Absolutely.
You know, and if you remember, you can watch this podcast on Facebook Live every Monday morning at 10, you know, on your podcast app through iTunes. You can listen to it, which is sometimes easier because I watched our episode this past week and my mouth was
That's all
moving.
Streaming. It's just streaming.
Yes.
It has to do with the streaming, not the recording.
And I thought I was watching those old
But there are a lot of people that
movies.
will watch it, or they'll hit play on the Facebook Live, and then they'll walk away and maybe get some things done, because women can multitask.
Yeah, I can't. I have to watch it and listen. But then you can also go to Casa Kalina's
Casa Kalina Treatment
YouTube page. Yes. And so this week, since we talked about setting up our house for success, we're excited. And man, you had a great idea to bring in a guest.
I did. It was my idea.
Yes.
Of course.
And so
all our great episodes are my idea.
I don't know about that. I make it fun.
It's a fact.
I make it fun. So tell us about our guest that you came up with.
So I invited Chris Prestridge, Lakewood Long Woodrow dad, that took over the Dad's Club, Friends of Lakewood, FOL, as we lovingly refer to it. He took it over years ago. How many years has it been?
2012.
Yeah.
2012. Thank you, Chris, for joining us.
Yes.
We're excited to have you today. You know,
and we invited him because the community of Lakewood already had a pretty good Dad's Club, strong, set up for success with the dad's involvement, but Chris kind of took it to another level, or his vision took it to another level. And so
yeah, and so we wanted to bring you on. I loved when Shannon came up with the idea of what about getting Chris? Because I've seen it. My kids were already kind of moving out of Lakewood.
Yeah.
And so when you came on, because I was involved in it, and it was kind of small, but I love that
not
sense
as
of,
involved as.
I said I kinda.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
kind
was-
of is
it
even a
was
stretch.
Well, so okay, and that happens a lot, right? So there's dads that feel like they don't contribute the way that they should, or they don't contribute enough, and that's kind of this was all kind of teed up for me to take over, right? So I had a strong dad before me. Before that, it was a series of strong dads, but they have jobs, right? They're working 78 hours a week. You're in Lakewood. It's a very affluent area.
Right.
And I understand that. I mean, a lot of our dads are the breadwinners, and they
Right.
don't have a lot of extra time left over. But so really, it kind of evolved down to a drinking club, and you get together for Super Bowl parties.
Yeah, a way to build community within the dads.
Within the dads, and so I found just the concept fascinating, right? That obviously PTA is geared parent-teacher. But it's
Yes.
always been moms, right? So there's
Right.
not been a place where dads can kind of go to. So I found the whole concept fascinating, and I watched the guys 2 years in front of me do it, and then the one before me, Chris Angarola, he kind of notched it up. He came up with some good ideas, and he teed me up very well. And then in 2012, I took it over. I threw out the Camp Lakewood idea, which is I'm sure a lot of people don't know, but
Right.
dad and child camping. So
Right.
Yeah, and the deal is what I like, because that me being a sober guy, it was that drinking club.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, yeah, I can throw a little money to help out the school, to help out the needs that we weren't getting, and then it was that drinking club, but the dads would participate financially, and. Was that Friends of Lakewood? Were they the crossing guards too?
Crossing guard,
Yeah.
did the
Yeah,
crossing
so
guard.
they were doing that.
Well, they
and the
did
math
field day. They
maniacs.
did math maniacs.
Yeah,
Math maniacs, and
then field day, and I participated in those things. But you took it to that new level in that sense of community. That's what we really like about at Casa Clina, we're all talking about community. I love, Chris, what I've seen from afar and listening to my wife, because y'all have interacted a lot, just about what your vision. It had FOL had a good mission. It's, hey, let's help out the needs that the school needs with these kids. But then what was your deal? Is like, what do I want to help these dads do more of?
So that was the key, right? How do I tie in dads, kids to the community and get everyone involved, right? So it was very loosely organized, and that's where the camp out came into play. Is it forced you to take a weekend off, which is hard to do.
yes,
When you try to coordinate, 400 people, these campouts are huge, right?
Yes.
So everyone has to take that same weekend off. You have to take off from sports, you have to take off from work, and you have to focus on your child. And I thought that's a great idea. So we were doing it through the Y and some other outlets, and it was kind of loosely. But to make it a school event through the dads group, the moms fully supported it because it was the biggest party weekend in
yeah.
Lakewood
See,
for the
that's
moms.
what it spilled over. Yes.
So I had the mom support
Yes.
behind it, and we get everyone together, and it created fellowship. And
Yes.
so that fellowship crossed all the boundaries for grade and kids, and everyone's together. And so that's kind of where that came from. And then, of course, it was a really good fundraiser, which helped
Yes.
fund the cause
Yes.
and take it from there. But some of the other stuff that we did was the softball leagues, the bowling leagues.
Yes.
Those were not fundraisers. Those were getting dads together, get everyone.
That's the kind of stuff that Chico did do some softball.
Yeah, I did the softball. I was on the old man.
club.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, that was a beautiful thing.
Old guys, the old guys.
Yeah, but
I like what you said. It created you help facilitate that fellowship.
Yes.
You help to what I like is you help to see dads really take more an integral part, not just showing up at nighttime after they come back from work. You got dads where the kids, the boys and the girls, were excited to have their dad involved.
Correct.
And,
Yeah,
and I think Chris and I both got to the point with our involvement at the elementary school level where you definitely, there's a fine line between launching all this stuff and instilling the vision and everything, and then teaching people how to fish, passing the batons.
Right.
Because I know you and I both personally suffered physically, and I don't know what else.
I think
Maybe
emotionally
not.
at different times.
Because
There'd be times.
the burden of carrying.
But there would be times. I remember when you were the PTA president, and Chris was over there, FLO president, FOL president, and y'all are talking about the politics, and all of a sudden I'm in bed and you're texting another man at night.
So
I mean, and I'm going, wait a
So-
minute.
He's
so-
fine with it.
and
He's
you know
fine
what?
with it.
A
He
little
didn't wanna do it.
little background on that. So I grew up in a single parent household. Mom, two sisters, two younger sisters.
Oh.
So I grew up in an all female environment.
Yeah.
So I think
That's why these ladies like you.
correct. And so
Yes.
I come
And that's
in.
why they don't like you.
Yeah.
I find,
Chico.
so I find that not only do I relate sometimes better to moms, I'm accepted into the tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very disarming because I understand the female brain.
Yes.
Yeah.
But along those same lines,
You're like Mel Gibson in What Women Want.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
You're going a different path now.
Yeah.
But I think it does help tie everything together because a lot of times you do wind up working with the moms.
Yes.
You do, that's where you're going to get the most support. And the moms are running the world over there.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying
That's
to
true.
inject dad into this and dad into that. But I think not having that dad growing up is some of the thing that propels me.
Yeah.
Realizing now, as I grew up, I didn't have a dad around at all. So I didn't
Yeah.
realize what I was missing. Now I realize what I was missing.
Yeah.
And I want all these kids to have that same experience,
Totally. The
So it
importance.
kind of drives me to be, extra dad,
Yeah.
to get everyone that same experience. But
Well, and it's not you're wanting the other dads to get that experience, but what I see, Chris, is you're also wanting these kids
Oh, absolutely.
to experience
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
And over at Lakewood, and then at our high school and middle school, we have a lot of kids that grew up like you. The dads aren't involved.
Correct.
And so I like that you've gotten these dads. Hey, bring these other kids that don't have dads.
Right.
And that gets you in that tribe big
Well,
time.
Well,
And-
and that's the friends of Lakewood, right?
Yes.
Friends it's not fathers of Lakewood, it's grandfathers, uncles. I mean, we try to grab anyone that will be a
Yes.
strong male influence to these kids and put them in place. So.
Yes.
Did
absolutely.
y'all run into? I mean, I think I saw maybe some resistance because our schools are part of Dallas Independent School District. It's a huge 166,000 students in that big deal. Did y'all run into some resistance from the bureaucracy of okay, hey, what are these dads doing? Did you get some pushback from teachers or
No.
administrators or anything like that?
No.
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 I think you didn't because y'all were so, not inclusive, but you brought in everybody.
Well, not it to the point of yes, and we still have moms every camp out will call and
Yes,
say,
I know.
my son doesn't have anyone to go with, or
Yes.
can he go with someone? We try to be as inclusive as we can. Now,
Absolutely.
obviously, campouts are harder because we don't have a place to house women,
Right.
because it's all dads. So, but we do try to encourage them to send them with a friend or
Yes.
get a grandparent or someone to take them. But yeah, so this really boils down to spending time with your kid, and a lot of these kids have the nuclear family, mom, dad,
Yeah.
everyone. But again, the dad is working a lot,
Yeah.
and may not spend as much time as they want to with the kid, and grabbing that weekend away, it builds bonds and it starts creating connections that last for a long time.
Right.
Well, and I think-
but then it also, don't you think it encourages the dads that are available, like you, to help show the moms and the dads the importance of a male role model, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the dad.
Yes.
Like what you're saying is that
Yeah.
an uncle or a friend or a youth pastor or whatever can go and be a part. But you started the FOL after school program too, kind of
Right.
with that idea in mind, right?
Again, the after school crowd, which my child was part of, was being underserved.
Yes.
We experienced. I won't go into strong details, but it just wasn't what we wanted in an after school program. So we started off as a fundraiser. Quickly realized that it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Right? So much work that this is not just a fundraiser. And then we realized also too that those kids in after school are usually coming from either single parent households
Yes.
or dual working households.
Yes.
And then we realized also that there weren't a lot of programs where they get exposed to men,
Right.
dads.
Yes. Right.
And so outside of coaching or teams,
Right.
And not all kids fit into that
Yeah,
mold either.
exactly.
Right?
And the world today gets kind of weird about men. I mean, I remember my boys always saying, "Why can't we babysit? That's how the girls make all the money." And
I
I'm
just
like,
listened to a story on the way in about the Boy Scouts of America now with
Yeah.
80,000, cases of molestation.
Yeah.
I get it.
Right.
Right. And it does.
The Catholic Church.
But
I
you
mean,
have to.
Right.
That's how we have to build, like we talked about last week, building safe places.
Correct.
And you helped build a safe place because the men that worked with you, who did it?
Russ.
Well, just Russ. Was it just Russ?
It's really Russ and I.
Yeah, you and Russ.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
then they brought in some high school kids and they
Yeah,
did.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's where we try to tie it all back together is we bring in our high school seniors,
Yes.
Yes.
right? And so those guys get exposed to that too. And it's reciprocal. It goes back and forth.
Yeah.
These high school kids
Travis
learn a
did
lot
some of
from
it,
these small kids and vice versa.
Yeah.
Well, and that also is where it's from a like this grassroots level.
Yes.
It's teaching the high school kids, about service work.
Mm-hmm.
Then you and Russ are modeling. Hey, no, this is appropriate behavior with
Modeling,
these kids.
yes.
Right.
So there's that modeling and mentoring because
Yes.
you're I've had a lot of millennials work for me, and they're desiring that, but they push back from that modeling and mentoring.
Right.
They need some of us older guys.
Yeah.
To do that.
But then the single moms are so appreciative. Their desire truly, I think, I've never been a single mom, but I would think that they're
haven't?
deep. No. I might be soon.
Nice.
You never know.
Yeah, I never.
I was
know.
watching a show last night about how marriages should maybe have a renewal contract.
I like that.
Like, are you going to re-up?
Yes,
You know.
I like that.
I would renew with you. Okay, but
Yeah.
and anyway, to be nice, but the moms deep down want a male role model
Sure.
in their child's life, but they don't know where to get that safe role model.
Yeah.
I mean, and so this building of the Dad's Club is so important because it introduces that male role model.
And
I think.
again,
I mean,
but it does tie back into right from wrong and
Yes.
steering kids in the right direction. And it starts early, right? I mean, by the time these kids get to
fifth
long,
grade or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, to middle school and high school,
Yeah.
you're pretty much. I mean, I'm not saying you're not moldable,
No,
but your
you're-
mold is pretty cast
I
by
agree.
then. So I think
agree.
it's important to get a hold of them early and start to set expectations and things like that.
And I do love about the dad's club activities, and your I guess awareness that kids aren't always involved in sports.
Correct.
Okay, and so they it's okay to be involved in, and sometimes dads just want to bond with their children over sports, even
Right.
girls. I mean,
Right.
my dad, I mean, I knew how to throw a great spiral football by the time I was, whatever age, but because that's how we bonded was over sports.
Well,
But,
yeah, and it's not just the bonding. What it's also
and I
doing
wasn't
is
super athletic.
yeah,
So.
but what it's also doing, I love it, is because it's getting them from this latchkey mentality. The
Right.
latchkey where they're going and they're just getting on their
Yep.
electronic device,
Yeah.
and they're actually interacting with people face to face.
Yes.
You know that
But
that helps.
electronics might be their thing, and that these men and even high school kids
Can bond with them.
allow for that.
Yes.
Allow for that.
Some of the biggest benefits that we see from the after school program, and I'm telling you, it's been very rewarding to do this program.
Sure.
Some of the biggest benefits we see are conflict resolution, right? So what you've done is you've taken by raising an electronic generation, there's not that interaction, right? Especially
Exactly.
not face-to-face interaction. So when you put them on a level playing field out there, and you've got kinder through 5th grade, there has to be conflict resolution.
Right.
So when we have
Yes.
kids running up to us going, so and so hit me, or so and so did this, or so and so threw a rock,
Yeah.
or we make them resolve it themselves. Are you
Yes.
guys friends? Yes. Work it out.
And
so-
I think
and
I'm gonna
also-
wait. I'm gonna interject as
Okay.
a female before I lose this, and I'm gonna throw my gender totally under the bus right now.
Fine.
But they do not deal with conflict resolution at the
Correct.
elementary age well at all,
Right.
and especially with boys.
Right.
I mean, it's like if somebody comes up, so and so threw a rock at me, they're going straight to that kid, shaming him, saying,
Right.
"What are you doing? Why are you doing that?" Not asking any of the questions like, "Did you maybe throw a rock first?" You know, I
Right.
mean, women are horrible, I think, at conflict resolution at a young age.
Well, and I
they're-
think-
they mama bear.
Well,
they-
and correct me if I'm wrong, Shannon.
especially with boys.
You know, I think, I mean, it goes both genders, but I think what you're talking about is also women are very reactionary. You know, so they
Yes.
react, they don't pause, they don't sit there and go, okay, hey, let me see the big picture. They get into exactly what you're saying, that mama bear mentality. And so what Chris and Russ are doing with those high school kids is modeling for them, hey, we can pause and work through this.
Right.
You know, that helps. You know, when we talk about Casa Kalina, that helps if, some kids can have all the best training and still struggle with addiction in adulthood.
Yes.
But if they've been planted those seeds, because we do believe, like with addiction, it's an allergy of the body and an obsession of the mind. And some people
and not
have
necessarily a secondary problem, but when you have trauma
it. Yes.
early on, and then you try to deal with that trauma and cover it, and it can be minor trauma. I mean, Beck had Giardia when he was 2 years old. So he won't remember that, but his stomach, he couldn't sleep. He hardly slept,
No,
and
he
now
had,
he
he
doesn't
had like
sleep.
7 to 10 diarrhea explosions.
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't need to. Wouldn't want us talking
No,
about
I'm
that.
sorry about that. But here's the deal. I
But-
say
I mean,
say
he was
that
2, he was in
because
diapers,
Right,
but
right.
because you took the Flagyl. I took Flagyl for one day, and I said, I'm done. I'll just take Giardia. Because
Anyway.
it was the most painful medicine
you didn't
ever.
have Giardia.
I didn't have it, but I'm a
whatever.
little
You-
hypochondriac,
yes,
and
yes.
so sometimes I all of a sudden think I have.
Just now you're rambling. I'm just
See,
trying to make the point.
You should have been in our program.
Yes.
Chico. We could have helped you.
I
along.
know.
He's like the fun. I know.
You could have helped me.
Why don't you
along.
just come to after school today? Okay?
Yes, I
get
know.
you
He
straightened
might have
out.
been getting into fights with the kids. Then you'd be like, "Now, Chico, is he your friend?" You know,
I struggled.
yes,
Yes,
I
with
know.
little hypochondria. But getting back
No,
to,
but
I love that. I
All I'm
love
saying
that
is that
concept.
There's trauma that you may not even know about, but and you're right, they are molded by middle school. They're the one. I mean, when I would get the call from the school saying Beck had wrapped his arms around somebody's neck or his hands, I'm like, okay, well let's.
Well, what you're saying about
have you had
boys?
him work it out?
What you're saying about boys?
Boys are boys.
Not
boys will be boys, but boys are boys.
Boys are active. They're and not a lot of times they're not destructive in a bad way. But if you're a female, it seems like a bad way.
Right.
You put little girls, they'll play dolls. Boys can't do that. They want to build shit and blow it up. That's just part of the human condition.
Well, our kids do.
Well, there's
Yes.
a lot of boundary checking and
Yes.
with boys, and so you have to set expectations and then follow through, and so it's those things that I think are help these kids that that are in the program deal with stuff throughout the day. And it is rough at that age. Believe it or not, in elementary school, that the pecking order starts early.
Oh, sure
Early,
it does.
early.
And so, if you're not the sports star or this or that,
Yeah, sure.
you can fall down in a hole quick. So,
Well, Chris, I kind of want to change it up. I really want to talk for a little bit, about dads. Have you seen these dads all of a sudden, begin to form good relationships with each other?
So as you go to these events, usually they're geared towards gender and grade. So what will happen, just by osmosis, is that they will all be piled into a cabin with people that they may or may not know. Some of them they'll know, but a lot of them they don't. And so, yeah, you start to form bonds with these other dads. These groups form. Out of it comes sports teams and other things that dads do together. But yeah, I start to see them click together in those groups, and those bonds last all the way through. I see some of them now at Woodrow. They're still connected.
Oh, totally.
But see, for me, as I'm a therapist, been in the field long. I find a lot of men struggle with They might not have struggled in high school and college and junior high having friendships, but as they get married and stuff, to really form those, I'm going to use this word, but intimate relationships with other men. Where they're
intentional, maybe.
Yes, intentional, where they're really letting other men know their struggles and stuff like that. Have you seen these guys begin to, since they're
Share life.
getting out of their, out of the norm and really beginning to build those relationships where, they're reaching out and caring for each other.
Well, I mean,
outside of that,
I can only speak for my tribe.
Yeah.
and
Right.
I like your tribe. I like that word tribe.
within my tribe, yes. So we do expose each other. We talk about failures. We talk about expectations that may not have hit where we wanted to be.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we talk, internally about to each other.
Sure.
Maybe not in a group setting,
No.
But
sometimes.
individually,
individually,
one-on-one.
yeah, one-on-one. There are some really strong bonds there that came from the starting of in school and the kids combined, and
Yes.
some of them have crossed boundaries. Like I have some of these dads that are girl dads, only have girls,
Right.
which is another weird
Yes,
thing,
dynamic.
because you wind up being with the boy dads if you have a boy and a girl dad if you have
It's
a girl.
true.
So
It is true.
I have some cross pollination there.
Yeah.
Which helps too, because you want to understand. Because I have a boy and a girl, and
I know,
some people
right.
don't. So I understand both
We
sides
don't.
of
We have only boys.
right. So I understand both sides of the coin. So it helps too, for me to be able to talk to someone and go, "Hey, man, we've been there, we've done that,
Yes.
and this is what we did and it worked, and this is what we did and it didn't work." So that
Transparency.
I think it helps.
Yeah, and see, that's where you're doing that. You're being intentional,
Mm-hmm.
which I like. You're really beginning to build that community, and you're
Well-
getting a lot of men showing up.
And Chico, it's like we talked about last week, just with our house, you have to create opportunities. I tried to create opportunities for my kids not to screw up.
Right.
Like if you get ahead of them, like for the weekend, you let them do, we've let them do capture the flag and paintball. We've even let ours, when you get the next door Lakewood, emails that say fireworks or gunshots, I'm like, I want to say fireworks, and it's my kids.
Right.
And they're at Tokalon Park where it's wet and whatever. But so I just completely outed
You
them.
don't. Yeah.
I don't do that. I just screenshot it and send a text to them saying, "Game over. Come on." But my point is, you create opportunities for these dads to get together, and then they might, because Chico never makes plans, and then he's always like, "Wah wah wah. I don't have any friends. I don't have one friend."
I
And I'm
do not
like,
do that.
But
Yes,
see, I
you
think
do.
that's a common
Guy thing.
male dad
Yes.
guy mantra is I don't have any close friends. We see
That's
we see you women.
I don't have a lot of close friends
Well,
either, though.
I know, but we see you women in these clumps and groups and all
know.
hunched down in these cool pictures, and we don't have that, and
Right.
and I think that's very common.
It's
Right.
very common. That's why
Yeah.
why I was asking that question, because
very
I think
common.
you've helped that. I mean, my
You
my
helped that
dentist is
create
my
opportunities.
dentist is 15 years younger, Jay Leftwich.
Oh, Jay Leftwich.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's loving it because he's moved over here. He's raising his kids
Right.
in our
Well, Brent
community.
Baker too.
Yes, I mean they're loving it,
Yeah.
and they're beginning to build that and have intentional relationships with other men.
Right.
They wouldn't normally have that.
Correct.
Yes.
That's so it's helping the family system.
Mm-hmm.
It's helping these kids. It's being intentional with other relationships.
Yes.
That's what Chris, what I know about you is you don't want to take credit, but we needed someone to spearhead, and you've spearheaded it,
Yes.
and you've done a good job. And the deal
And
is,
he's received like lifetime PTA awards and stuff, and
but the other deal is for
it's
people
like,
that
I don't want an award, I want some help.
Right,
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
But-
Volunteer.
Right.
That was my whole speech.
But
Right.
but the
Help.
deal is, it didn't happen overnight. You started
No.
in 2012, and we went a year or two ago to the big. You had 125, 150 dads talking about the sports at Woodrow and
Oh, at the
Long,
meeting,
and
yeah.
and we went to. But the deal is, for people that aren't in our area that are listening to this show, you can be like Chris. You can be
Yes.
intentional. You can find those
You
men.
have to create the opportunities.
Yes, and so creating the opportunities, it takes
Do
work.
a camp for the dads.
Take work.
Get creative.
Yes.
I got a buddy of mine, Chad. I use think outside the box, and they give me crap about saying that. I'm saying let's get creative, okay?
I think
That's my
Chica's
new
cheating
word.
on me with Chad
Yes.
because it comes up all the time, and they're doing business together or whatever. But
Yes, but the deal is, man, I really appreciate, Chris, you coming down and really kind of sharing your story, but giving a vision.
Yeah.
And hopefully people listening to this can get that vision and get creative. So until next time, thanks
we
for
so
coming.
appreciate you coming.
Thanks
Thank
for having
you.
me.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.